Well, thank you very much, and I must begin by expressing my gratitude for inviting me once again to Japan. It's always a pleasure to be here. Now, my paper talks about the impact of the Arab Spring of Revolutions on the Palestinian issue, and can, for practical reasons, be divided into two themes. First, the impact on the popular sentiment within the Arab world, but more importantly, among the Palestinians themselves. And secondly, the impact on the technical and practical issues, such as peacemaking, reconciliation, the declaration of Palestinian statehood, and so on. Now let's begin with how these developments have impacted on the way the average Arab and the average Palestinian has begun to see the world. It is an era that is beginning to reverse what happened nearly 100 years ago. Now, when the Tunisian people rose against the regime of Ben Ali, and when the Egyptian people rose against the regime of Hosni Mubarak, and then this was followed by Libya, Yemen, Syria, and more to come, the people were rising against a system that was imposed on them, that they never had the opportunity to choose. Historically, there is a direct correlation between the political system that existed for so many years and the plight of the Palestinians, or what may be described as the Palestinian issue. The Arab states that are witnessing this dynamism at the present were all artificially created. They were all the product of a colonial onslaught that was carried jointly by the two superpowers that won the First World War, and that is Britain and France. Two processes went ahead in parallel. On the one hand, the partitioning of the region that is today known as the Middle East and North Africa into small entities under the control of the British or the French, and in parallel to that, paving the way for resolving European old problem known as the Jewish problem by creating a Jewish state in Palestine, which was the only piece of territory not included in the creation of the modern Arab territorial model of state, but saved under the British mandate in order to make it possible for the Zionist project, as it is known or described, to become a reality. Now, we don't have the time today to talk about why the Arab revolutions started in the first place. That can be discussed at length on other occasions. But one main reason was the failure of this model of Arab state that was created by the colonial powers. Now, the Arabs who are toppling these autocracies or despotic regimes want to replace them with elected governments that are truly representative of the desires of the people for a change. And if you ask an average Arab what they want, they'll probably give you a list of things. But one of the things on the list is the restoration of Arab unity. And of course, this is exactly what is terrifying for the Israelis and for their sponsors, the United States of America in particular. And I agree with you, it's the challenge of maintaining a balance between this transformation toward democratization without changing the map, which is referred to as stabilization. But actually, the Arab masses want to change the map. It might surprise some people that the Palestinians were the happiest of all about the changes that have been going on in the Arab region. They celebrated more than anybody else because they can see into the future that the reversal of what was known as the Sykes-Picot plan of dividing the Arab region into unviable, failing states will also reverse the Zionist project that became a reality as a result of the colonial design that divided the region into those entities. One of the interesting observations that are common to all the Arab revolutions, whether you are looking at the Tahrir Square in Cairo or looking at whatever square in Sana'a in Yemen or the demonstrations in Libya or in Damascus or Homs or other towns in Syria, that the slogan calling for freedom and dignity went together with a slogan calling for the liberation of Palestine. Now, enough about the sentimental part. Let's move on to the more practical issues. Until the Arab revolutions started, the Arab region was divided into two camps. A camp that was led by Egypt under Mubarak and the Saudi Arabian regime, known as the camp of moderation. Moderation here means pro-America. And consequently, it means willing to recognize Israel. The other camp is known in Arabic as the camp of Mumana'a, which means opposition or supporting resistance against Israel and against US hegemony. And this camp is led by Syria and in alliance with Iran, which is not an Arab country, but a neighbor, and includes Hamas, Hezbollah, some Arab countries like Libya, to some extent Sudan and Yemen. Now, until the fall of Mubarak, the second camp was very happy because the revolutions were happening in the countries that represented the moderation camp. And the immediate impact of this on the Palestinian actors is to give Hamas further empowerment, but also to, on the other hand, to create a predicament, a profound predicament for the PLO or Fatah or the Palestinian Authority. It's really three terms for the same people, because they lost a major ally, and that is the Mubarak regime. The Mubarak regime in particular was judged by Hamas and its supporters as a pro-Zionist regime, very anti-Palestinian. And it seemed at that time that Hamas didn't need anymore to engage in a reconciliation process with Fatah. And that position was consolidated by the leakage of documents by Al Jazeera and The Guardian in London, revealing the secret talks behind closed doors between Palestinian and Israeli negotiators. However, soon things changed in a different direction when the revolution erupted in Syria. I mentioned in the paper that in February I met my friend Khalid Mish'al in Damascus, and he was sure that Syria was stable and that nothing was going to happen there. Now, the lesson that Hamas has learned, and many Arabs also have learned, is that these popular revolutions are primarily about how these regimes were treating their citizens and not about foreign policy. Now, this situation has become a predicament for Hamas and other Palestinian factions that are headquartered in Damascus, because if you side by the regime, you lose the people. And if you side by the people, you are likely to enter into a war with the regime. So Hamas decided to remain silent. The events in Syria coincided with some dynamism within Palestine itself, where people took to the streets in the West Bank as well as in Gaza, calling for an end to the division among the Palestinians. And while neither party, Hamas or Fatah, were really serious about reconciling their differences, an initiative starting in Ankara by the Turks soon moved to Cairo, and the new regime in Cairo, headed by the military junta, decided to invite both sides for talks in Cairo. Now, this new initiative would have probably delivered some results had it not been for the intervention by the United States, which insisted that Hamas should not play a role in forming the forthcoming transitional cabinet agreed as a matter of principle upon in Cairo in order to pave the way for the next election.